with the six sense bases, with everything in the world. And then experiencing disenchantment, he becomes dispassionate, and that will lead to liberation. This reminds me, like in India, a lot of ascetics, they practice these Dhutanga practices, the ascetic practices to suffer, they think, to wear away their sins, wear away their evil karma, they think. So they do things like going naked, do things like living in the forest, living off the fruits that fall in the forest and the roots of trees and all that, plants. So that is one extreme for people who don't understand the Dhamma. The Buddha himself went through all these extreme conditions, like starving himself until he ate 1 grain of rice a day. So later he relaxed and practiced the middle way and attained enlightenment. And after he attained enlightenment, he told his disciples not to practice all these unbeneficial ascetic practices. Instead, to direct your mind in the right way, like contemplating impermanence, contemplating suffering, contemplating not self. That is the right way. Without having to suffer so much, you can attain enlightenment. So similarly here, this sutta, if you go to one extreme, because you think that the six sense basis is the cause, because of contact at the six sense basis, then feeling arises, and feeling gives rise to suffering when you cling to it, right? So if a person is doesn't have much wisdom, he thinks the cause of all the suffering is the six sense basis. So go and destroy the six sense basis, give something burning and burn it out, burn out the eye, burn out the ear, the nose, and all that. But the Buddha says you don't have to go to that extreme. Simple way is just to contemplate impermanence in all these six sense bases. Then you don't become attached to it. Then you can attain liberation. Next sutta is 35.236. The Buddha said, monks, when there are hands, picking up and putting down are discerned, are seen. When there are feet, coming and going are discerned. When there are limbs, bending and stretching are discerned. When there is the belly, hunger and thirst are discerned. So too, monks, when there is the eye, pleasure and pain arise internally with eye contact as condition. When there is the ear, pleasure and pain arise internally with ear contact as condition. Similarly, when there is nose, also pleasure and pain arise. When there is tongue, pleasure and pain arise. When there is body, pleasure and pain arise. When there is mind, pleasure and pain arise internally with contact as condition. When monks, there are no hands, picking up and putting down are not discerned. When there are no feet, coming and going are not discerned. When there are no limbs, bending and stretching are not discerned. When there is no belly, hunger and thirst are not discerned. So too, monks, when there is no eye, no pleasure and pain arise internally with eye contact as condition. When there is no ear, no pleasure and pain arise internally. When there is no nose, when there is no tongue, when there is no body, when there is no mind, no pleasure and pain arise internally with contact as condition. That's the end of the sutta. So the six sense organs is the cause for pleasure and pain to arise. So if we continue to have the six sense organs, then pleasure and pain continue to we continue to experience. So when you understand that the suffering is not worth the pleasure that you get, then only you become disenchanted with the six sense bases. Because however much you pleasure you can get from the six sense bases is never enough, never satisfied. And yet the pain when you experience through the six sense bases, the pain is unbearable. So that's why I say the pain that you experience is not worth the pleasure that you get out of the six sense bases. One day when we realize it, and we become disenchanted. The next sutta is quite a famous sutta, 35.238. Monks, suppose there were 4 vipers of fierce heat and deadly venom. Then a man would come along wanting to live, not wanting to die, desiring happiness and averse to suffering. They would tell him, "Good man, these 4 vipers are of fierce heat and deadly venom. From time to time they must be lifted up. From time to time they must be bathed. From time to time they must be fed. From time to time they must be laid to rest. But if one or another of these vipers ever becomes angry with you, then, good man, you will meet death or deadly suffering. Do whatever has to be done, good man." Then monks, afraid of the 4 vipers of fierce heat and deadly venom, that man would flee in one direction or another. And they would tell him, "Good man, 5 murderous enemies are pursuing you, thinking, wherever we see him, we will take his life right on the spot. Do whatever has to be done, good man." Then monks, afraid of the 4 vipers of fierce heat and deadly venom, and of the 5 murderous enemies, that man would flee in one direction or another. They would tell him, "Good man, a 6th murderer and intimate companion is pursuing you with drawn sword, thinking, wherever I see him, I will cut off his head right on the spot. Do whatever has to be done, good man." Then monks, afraid of the 4 vipers of fierce heat and deadly venom, and of the 5 murderous enemies, and of the 6th murderer, the intimate companion with drawn sword, that man would flee in one direction or another. He would see an empty village. Whatever house he enters is void, deserted, empty. Whatever pot he takes hold of is void, hollow, empty. They would tell him, "Good man, just now, village attacking dacoits will raid this empty village. Do whatever has to be done, good man." Then monks, afraid of the 4 vipers of fierce heat and deadly venom, and of the 5 murderous enemies, and of the 6th murderer, the intimate companion with drawn sword, and of the village attacking dacoits or bandits, that man would flee in one direction or another. He would see a great expanse of water, whose near shore was dangerous and fearful, and whose further shore was safe and free from danger. But there would be no ferry boat or bridge for crossing over from the near shore to the far shore. Then the man would think, there is this great expanse of water, whose near shore is dangerous and fearful, but whose further shore is safe and free from danger. But there is no ferry boat or bridge for crossing over. Let me collect grass, twigs, branches, and foliage, and bind them together into a raft, so that by means of that raft, making an effort with my hands and feet, I can get safely across to the far shore. Then the man would collect grass, twigs, branches, and foliage, and bind them together into a raft, so that by means of that raft, making an effort with his hands and feet, he would get safely across to the far shore. Crossed over, gone beyond, the Brahmana stands on high ground. I have made up this simile, monks, in order to convey a meaning. I stop here before I explain what the Buddha says. So this man, 4 vipers, very poisonous. He has to take care of these 4 vipers. They are thrust onto him, and he has to lift them up from time to time. They must be bathed from time to time. They must be fed. They must be given some rest and all that. And if you make any one of them angry, once they bite you, either you die or you'll be half dead, suffering from so much pain. And then on top of that, 5 enemies are chasing him. And if they catch up with him, they will take his life. So he has to run. But he has to carry these 4 vipers on his body. They have already put around his body. And then he hears that a 6th murderer, an old friend, is also chasing him, wanting to kill him. So he has to run again. Then he comes to a village, and that village is deserted. Nobody, all the houses are empty. He enters, every house also empty. And then even when he goes to the kitchen, takes up all the pots, also empty. And then suddenly he hears some bandits will come and raid this empty village. And then he's afraid of the bandits, they may kill him. Then he runs again. Then he keeps running until he comes to water. And this side is very fearful. So many people want to kill him. Even the snake also can kill him. But the other side, the other shore is safe. So he collects grass and twigs and branches and leaves and binds them into a raft. And making great effort with his hands and feet, he managed to cross over to the other shore where it's safe. I have made up this simile, monks, in order to convey a meaning. This is the meaning here. The 4 vipers of fierce heat and deadly venom. This is a designation for the 4 great elements. The earth element, water element, heat element, the air element. Let's stop here for a moment. So these 4 vipers is actually our own body. Our own body is made up of these 4 elements. And we have to take care of our body. We have no choice. We have to bathe our body. We have to feed our body. We have to brush our teeth. Go and do our toilet. And if we don't take proper care of the body, if we have too much wind, then we will suffer. If we have too much heat, for example, you take too much curry, and then also you will suffer. Or if the weather is no good, also you will suffer. And to the extent that you may even die if you don't take proper care of your body. So these 4 vipers represent our body, the 4 elements in our body. The 5 murderous enemies, that is a designation for the 5 aggregates of attachment. That is the body aggregate, the feeling aggregate, perception aggregate, volition aggregate, consciousness aggregate. Stop here for a moment. So these 5 aggregates that we attach to as I and mine, they are also murderous enemies. Why? Because we attach to them, then when the body dies, the body and the mind dies, we don't think that the body dies, you think I die, right? So by attaching to them, they murder us. When we die, it's not that the 5 aggregates die, we think I die, and that's why they are our murderous enemies. This we read before in a previous sutta. Venerable Sariputta giving this simile, this parable to Venerable Yamaka. The 6th murderer, the intimate companion with drawn sword. This is a designation for delight and lust. Stop here for a moment. This delight and lust, because of delight and lust, we think we enjoy, we are happy, we enjoy the world. So this delight and lust is intimate companion. But because of delight and lust, we have the self. Once you delight in things of the world, you think I enjoy. So that I, the ego, the conceit arises. So once you have the conceit, when the body dies, you feel I die. So this delight and lust is also a murderer, because you attach to delight and lust, you feel that one day I die. The empty village, this is a designation for the 6 internal sense bases. 6 six internal sense bases, our six organs. If monks